Good afternoon. This is Jane Clary Lovelace. We're going to discuss Community Food Projects Competitive Grant Program. And with me today are Adrian Wooden, who is a branch chief for Awards Management Division, Susan Bauman, branch chief for Awards Management Division, and Dr. Pascal Jean, our program specialist for CFP, Finney, and the Food Agriculture Service Learning Program. So just a reminder that June 3rd is the due date for CFP proposals at 5 p.m. And if you're a new user to grants.gov, please make sure you see page 11 in the RFA and have your DUNS and SAM number. This is not an excuse to turn in a proposal after 5 p.m. So if your grants and your SAM and DUNS number has expired, make sure that you re-register in time for this submission. So the Community Food Grants Project, this is roughly the 22nd year the project's been going on. And these programs are to fight food insecurity through developing community food projects. And what we're trying to do is promote self-sufficiency in low-income communities. We want to bring food security to the whole food system to improve the assets and strengths linkages in the community and help improve self-reliance. Community food projects should not exceed $400,000 over a period of 4 years, and matching funds are required. And the planning project should not exceed $35,000 and should not exceed 3 years. Matching funds are required. So the purpose and primary goals of these projects include meeting the food needs of low-income individuals, increase the self-reliance of communities, and promote a comprehensive response to local food, farm, and nutrition issues. In addition, that you can purchase used equipment if necessary for efficient operation. You want to make sure that you plan for long-term solutions if you're a planning project and create innovative marketing activities. The additional purposes include connections between 2 or more sectors of the food system. We are supporting the development of entrepreneurial projects, also innovative connections between the for-profit and nonprofit food sector, and again, encourage long-term planning. Additionally, we'd like to see new resources and strategies to help reduce food insecurity in the community, and this includes developing creative food resources, coordinating food services with the park and recreation programs such as a summer feeding program, coordinating with the schools, and also include nutrition education programs for at-risk populations to enhance food purchasing and food prep skills. And these programs, these nutrition education programs, can be done through the Cooperative Extension Service in conjunction with your land-grant university. So FNIP and SNAP-Ed are 2 nutrition education opportunities that are free of charge offered by the Cooperative Extension Service. Examples of CFP projects include, but not limited to, community gardens with market stands, value chain projects, food hubs, farmers markets, CSAs, farm to institution projects, corner markets, and mobile markets. Planning projects show a connection between 2 or more sectors of the food system. So it's the development of entrepreneurial projects and innovative connections between the for-profit and nonprofit food sectors. Planning project examples include community foods assessments and collaborative efforts, GIS development, GIS analysis, food sovereignty studies, and farm to institution studies. Eligible applicants. For this particular program, public food program service providers, tribal organizations, or private nonprofit entities, meaning 501(c), includes gleaners as well, need to meet the following 4 requirements. We want to make sure that you have experience in community food work, particularly with small and medium-sized farms, that you have experience with job training and business development for food-related activities in low-income communities, that you have experience in working to reduce food insecurity in your community, including food distribution, improving access to services, or coordinating services in the community. In addition, demonstrating competency to implement a project, provide fiscal accountability, collect data, and prepare reports and other necessary documentation, and that you show a willingness to share your information with researchers, evaluators, practitioners, and other interested parties. You need to make sure that you collaborate with one or more local partner organizations and at least have one hunger-free community goal that you're addressing in your project. So we want to see that the projects are community-based and not community-placed. Partners or collaborators are encouraged to seek and create partnerships with public or private, nonprofit or for-profit entities, and this includes links with academic institutions, local government entities, the Cooperative Extension Service, food banks, and food pantries, to give an example. Only the applicant must meet the eligibility, so see pages 9 through 10 in the RFA for more details. CFP and planning projects must provide matching on a dollar-for-dollar basis for all federal funds awarded. So if you're requesting, for example, $200,000 in federal funds, then you need to have in matching $200,000 in matching funds. So the matching funds can be provided through cash or in-kind contributions, and Adrian and Susan from our Awards Management Division will discuss that with you shortly. Evaluation needs to be strong in these proposals, and that you need to focus on your logic model and look at the indicators of success and make sure that you can meet any of the goals and objectives in this and provide impacts. And so these impacts, these indicators will be collected by New Entry Sustainable Farming, and they also provide training and technical assistance support for you. The contact information for New Entry and for New Entry, in addition to their entire program, includes Jennifer Hashley, who's the project director, and Kristen Irvin, who's the national technical assistant. And so Jennifer's phone number is 617-306-4879, and Kristen's phone number is 978-654-6745, extension 105, and the email address is included on the slide as well. So if you have further questions about community food projects, you can contact me, Jane Clary Loveless, jclary@nifa.usda.gov, or Dr. Pascal Jean, Pascal, PASCALE.Jean@nifa.usda.gov. Thank you.
The next slide. So while the next set of slides is being loaded, and there they are, we're going to talk a little bit about the award information. So we're going to go to the agenda, and some of the things we're going to talk about are the pre-award requirements, fiscal agents, program specifics, matching regulations, definitions, matching do's and don'ts, what's acceptable for matching, common project and matching cost and required information, how you value your donations, matching commitment documentation, administrative reviews, summary, and contact information. So I am Susan Bowman in the Awards Management Division, and Adrian, my cohort, and I are going to talk to you about some of these things. So pre-award requirements, if you're a new grantee, and even if you're not, we're going to request some organizational information from you. And what you need to do is send us 2 years of audited financial reports, or certified year-end balance sheets and income statements, details of your cost accounting system, policy on how your salary compensation rates are determined, a statement of purposes and powers or your bylaws, and the IRS tax exempt letter. That is all required information. If you're selected for an award, you will get a letter from the Awards Management Division requesting this information. So you don't need to send it until you're contacted by us. So a fiscal agent is an organization that assists the applicant grantee organization in managing the funds. They cannot submit an application for the organization doing the work. So the applicant organization has to have their own SAM and DUNS registration and their own EIN number, and they must be the entity doing the proposed work. Organizational information is required for the grantee and the fiscal agent. So a lot of times, I think folks get confused and think that the fiscal agent can apply on behalf of an organization, and that's not the case. So a few program specifics that we want to talk about, as Jane had said, this program does require 100% matching. It can be cash, in kind, or third party. It does allow for full recovery of indirect costs based on your approved federally negotiated rate on federal funds only. So you can't take any indirect cost on your matching funds, only your federal funds. If you don't have a rate, you can request a rate at the NIFA negotiated rate or the 10% de minimis rate. And for information on this process, there's a link on the slide that you can go to. If you're not finding what you're looking for, give Adrian or myself a call. So for your matching regulations, the governing regulations are the uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, audit requirements for federal awards, and the uniform guidance. So there's some information here that specifically you can go to that gives you cost sharing or matching information and the cost principles on what allowable costs are. And the website, the link to the website is at the bottom of the slide. So let's talk a little bit about some of the definitions for matching in these programs. So cash matching would be the recipient's cash outlay, including the outlay of money contributed to the recipient by non-federal third parties. So example would be the recipient's cost to purchase an item of equipment for use on the project, salaries for staff time committed to the project, purchase of supplies, or travel expenses for the project staff. So an in-kind contribution is the value of non-cash contributions of property or services. It may include use of facilities, use or donation of equipment, supplies, or other non-expendable property. So third-party matching could be also any kind of contribution to the project by an organization other than the recipients. It can include cash or in-kind contributions. So you may have an organization that wants to support this project and they're going to give you an infusion of $10,000 cash. That would be considered third-party matching. So here are some of the things that you want to think about as you're putting your budget together of what to do and what not to do when you're including your matching. So you have to make sure the entire amount of required matching is secured at the time of the award. The matching costs have to be incurred specifically for this project during the project period. There are no contingency allowed, so you can't have something from a group that says, we think we're going to be able to give you funds next year, but we're not sure, and you can't count that because that would be contingent upon their approval, and you wouldn't have it in place at the time of the award. So you want to summarize the sources and the amounts of all the matching in the budget, and you want a budget justification separately for your matching funds. So when you submit your budget and your budget narratives, you want to have one narrative for your federal funds and one narrative for your matching funds. And you should be describing all the costs that are on the line items of your budget form. So funds that can be used as matching, funds used as matching cannot be used as matching for another federally assisted program or project. It may not be provided by another federal agency, and it must be for costs that are allowable under the program and the applicable cost principles. If something is allowable on the federal side, it should be allowable on the matching, and vice versa. If it's not allowable for federal, it's not going to be allowable for matching. So what's not acceptable matching? Funds provided by another organization for use on another or similar project. Funds can't be used twice. You can't double dip. Income expected to be earned during the project period, because you don't know for sure if it's going to be earned or not. All matching has to be in place at the time of the award, and the income would not have been earned by then. So the value of equipment previously purchased by or donated to the recipient. The purchase or donation of equipment must be specifically for this project. Office furniture, purchase or rental usage, loan programs, none of that would be acceptable. Indirect cost if you do not have an approved rate, and that would also apply to any subawards that you may be working with. And then the total indirect cost claimed for matching in federal funds can't exceed the total amount allowed based on the federal funds. So you have to make sure you're applying, if you have an approved negotiated rate, you're only applying that rate to the federal portion of your award. So also not allowed are contingency costs set aside for unexpected expenses or future usage, market vouchers, or other incentives. So those are some of the things that are not allowed, that's not acceptable. What is accepted as match? Any cost that would be normally allowable under the cost principles for federal funds would be allowable as matching. And also costs that are specifically identifiable and directly benefiting the project. So you might have a cost that would be allowable under the cost principles, but it doesn't have anything to do with this project. So in that case, it wouldn't be allowed for this award. And now Adrian is going to take over and talk to you about some other things.
Okay, yeah, hi. This is Adrian Wooden, and I'm going to go over some common project costs and the information that would be required for that. So these costs could be for federal and or matching, and the same level of detail would be required for justifying federal funds as for justifying matching funds. So the first item would be salaries and wages for project personnel. If you have people working on the project, you can use federal funds to pay for their time, or if you want to use that as matching, that would be fine. You would use your own funds to pay their salaries then. So what we would need is we would need to know the annual or hourly rate of pay, their time commitment, like the number of hours or the percentage of effort, and the task that is to be completed. We would need to know the salary rates. Salary rate should be the normal rate of pay for that employee or that job category. You can inflate it to give them a raise, but if that's not what their normal rate is. Salary rates that are deemed excessive may need to be justified. We would ask for maybe time or pay stubs or information on what their normal rate of pay is so that we can determine that it's reasonable. Materials and supplies could be used. You're going to have materials and supply usage, so we would just need a list of materials and supplies expected to be purchased and an estimated cost. You don't have to go into too much details. If there's something that is unusual, you might want to provide a little explanation so that we can understand it. Travel costs, if you're going to be traveling for the project, we would just need to know the purpose and destination if you know where it is. Number of trips, number of travelers, and the cost per trip. Meeting space rental, if there's going to be any type of meetings or educational seminars for your targeted audience, and you have to rent a meeting room at a community center, a hotel, or other facility, we would just need to know the location of the facility and the cost. And if and you have to know if the facility does not normally charge for the usage, the cost of space rental for that location would not be allowed, because it must be normal and customary practice to charge space rental. So if it's not normal to charge, then you can't charge the project. Equipment purchases, we would just need to know details of the type of equipment and how it will be used, include the purchase price, and general purpose equipment, which is for the direct benefit of the project, would be allowable, but we would need to know an explanation of use. So to satisfy matching requirements, you could get some equipment donated to you. So new equipment donated would be allowed the full purchase value of newly purchased equipment that's acquired specifically for the project. We would need you to identify the type of the equipment and how it would be used on the project, and we would need documentation of costs. Donated used equipment. If somebody has some equipment that is used but still viable and needed for your project, we would need you to identify the type of equipment and how it will be used, and then provide details on the amount of time it will be used for the project, and note only the depreciated value of the equipment at the time of the donation may be used as matching. So then we would need to know details on how the value was determined, and you would have to show us the cost, the year of purchase, and the depreciation method that you used. If somebody is going to loan equipment to you, like if you're doing a community garden and somebody's going to loan you a rototiller, we would need to know the information on the type of equipment and how it's going to be used, and documentation on how the rental value is determined. The matching cost amount may not exceed the fair rental or market value. So if you're going to have loaned equipment, you might want to do some research with your local rent-a-center and find out what they would charge for that type of equipment. So donations or loans of new or used equipment made prior to the project period cannot be considered. Donations must be made specifically for use on the project. Donated, loaned, or purchased equipment must be used specifically for the project or prorated accordingly if you're going to split the usage among other projects. A lot of organizations have volunteers, and so if you have volunteers that are going to be working on your project with you, you can use their time for your matching, and you would the rate of the volunteer labor would be consistent with that paid for similar work within your organization or with that paid for similar work in the labor market. The rate of pay is based on the work to be performed, not on the volunteer's rate of pay in their place of employment. If a person is, a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but is going to help you dig a garden, you would base that person's time commitment rate of pay as that of a gardener and not as a Fortune 500 CEO. Land rental, if you're going to rent land for garden plots or other project activities, the value for the use of the land should not exceed the fair rental value of comparable land as established by an independent appraisal of similar land in the area. The amount is not based on the for sale appraisal value. We're not buying the land, we're only renting it. So it would be the rental value versus the for sale value. And then we would need documentation on how the land usage was valued. Land donation, if somebody is going to be generous and is going to donate land to you with the transfer of property ownership, we would need to know the value of donated property based on its fair market value at the time of the donation, and the value should be established by an independent appraisal, and documentation would be provided to us. So how to value donations. So the basis for determining the value of donations must be verifiable from the records of the recipient, the subrecipient, or the contractor. Methods used to determine the value should be included in the records. Volunteer services should be supported by the same level of documentation used by your organization for your own employees, such as time records, sign-in sheets, and things such like that. Required documentation for matching, again, the budget, you would have your budget on the matching column showing how the matching funds will be spent. It will be divided up among the various budget categories there. And then you would have a budget narrative explaining those costs. And then we would require a list of matching sources to include the identification of each entity providing match. And then all matching listed must be secured by proposal submission. and the total dollar amount of each entity that each entity is providing. And that would include your commitment also. So administrative reviews. So to ensure compliance with matching requirements after award, the NIFA Awards management staff will perform random desk audits or site visits. We will select at random several grantees to do a mini audit, and we will look at your matching documentation, expenditure reports. We'll review that, and then all your supporting documentations of the expenditure and matching for your organization and any and all of your third-party donors. So you must maintain those records until your award is closed out, successfully closed out, and you've received notification. You are required then to save those that documentation for 3 years after closeout. So in summary, just note some matching may be deemed unallowable during the review process, and it would then require additional matching sources. So if you are overmatched, that's not a bad thing. You're only accountable for 100% under this program. So if you have additional funds, that's just a little bit of a cushion in case some matching is deemed unallowable. An award with required matching cannot be issued until all aid matching has been verified as allowable, reasonable, and secured. And then projects unable to meet the matching requirements will not be funded, or the funding may be reduced. So remember, if an expense is unallowable on the federal budget or with the program, it is unallowable as matching. So, you know, if it's not allowable under one, it's not allowable under the other. Charging for use of equipment, space, or land would not be allowable if the organization does not normally charge for the usage of those things. And that is the end of the awards management portion of this. Here's some contact information. The general number for the awards management division, and then also Susan Bowman and my contact information.
All right, at this point, we'll go over the questions, and I'll ask the team to jump in and just answer. Question number one, if it is a research project, how do we fill out the research and related other project information form? Our program participants are humans, but they aren't conducting scientific research with them. So they will be considered human subject, or will they? Do we need to run our project through IRB?
So that depends on what type of project evaluation you do. And if you're contracting out for your evaluation, then that person that's actually conducting the evaluation should check with their IRB office, connect with the university to see, because there's what's called an expedited review. So you don't have to necessarily do the full IRB process. And you can also check, you know, not humans involved, in that it's not a research project, because what you're essentially doing is evaluating the program's effectiveness, and you're also evaluating the educational effectiveness of this. So if you have detailed questions about that, connect with New Entry Sustainable Farming. They have the indicator success report on the website. And most people do not have IRB for these simple questions. There's not personal identifiers, there's not personal information. So you would not have to contract and have to go through IRB. And so number two, could you apply for the CFP and planning project in the same fiscal year? The answer is no.
Right. Can we use food and ag policy meeting as an in-kind match? We use a portion of these meetings to discuss supply chain issues.
No, the cost of the meeting would have to be specifically, the meeting would have to be specifically for the project. So just discussing some food supply chain issues would not be specifically for this project, so it would be unallowable.
Can you please clarify the use of SNAP-Ed and FNEP as match?
Well, I know FNEP are federal funds, so that would not be allowed. SNAP-Ed, I'm sure, are federal also.
So what I meant as match is that the program's free of charge normally because it's provided to limited resource audiences. But if they work with the cooperative extension director or the program leader, it might be conducted in a extension office, for instance, and then that space could be used toward match.
Right.
Or if they provide any special equipment to do the education, if they're providing any type of volunteers to work.
The educator.
Right, the educator is a volunteer or any type of volunteers to assist with the agricultural practices. So just check, those types of costs.
What if a good deal of the grant funds will be used to renovate or provide equipment for a space that will be a community design or run fresh market? So again, with this grant, this is a community food project. The majority grant cannot be for renovation or equipment. Please go back to RFA and review the goals and objectives of your project. You want to make sure that the higher percentage of your program is focusing on the purpose and goals of the project, not building or reconstructing or for equipment. You ladies want to add any more information on that one? All right. Question about evaluation criteria. Can you elaborate on the prioritization of planning grant project activities? Entro says that evaluation criteria are listed in order of importance. Or is there also some prioritization with project outcomes? And also you didn't mention the number of multi-system collaborative approaches versus reduced food security on your slides. Elaborate more about evaluation criteria.
Okay, so look at the evaluation criteria for the planning projects and just make sure there's not, what we look at, what the panel reviews, does the information cover everything requested in the project narrative? If you leave holes in your projects, if they're trying to figure out if you have the capacity to do the project, if you have statements in your proposal that states that you have lots of collaborators, or say you have statements in there that you collaborate with the school but have no letters of support, nobody can show that you have lots of collaborators because those letters are missing. If it doesn't indicate that it's community-based versus community-placed, the proposal will not fare well during panel. And what we're trying to do is make sure that you hit every single point. Like, do you have your clear goals and objectives? Do you have a clear management plan? Is it a fly-by-night organization, or do you really have a structure where you have a person that handles all the financial, that you have people that document their time on the project? They want to make sure that your evaluation's strong. There cannot be a weakness in the entire proposal because it will not be funded. There's too many proposals that are submitted that come in as excellent and high priority. So if you leave out any section, it will not fare well during panel.
Can a planning grant be used to conceive of a new governance model for a country-level food system council, thus develop a community needs assessment to guide the work of the group for the next several years?
This could count as a planning grant, but you have to show what your current governance model is for the county level food system council, why you want it changed, why you think it needs to be a new model, and then show what type of needs assessment you want to do in addressing food security. So show how what you have needs to be improved and how you're going to make it better.
Is there a minimum amount of match that must be cash? Is there a recommended portion of matching that should be cash versus in kind?
No, there's no limitation or maximum amount of matching that has to be cash. Whatever you can secure, if it's cash, in kind, or third party, it's fine. This is, as long as you're meeting the requirement.
And last question, if an in-ground greenhouse gets built, can the cost of the utilities for the greenhouse that will provide food year-round for the recipients be able to claim as an expense?
No, utility expenses are considered to be overhead or indirect costs, and that would be part of your indirect cost pool. So it would not be allowed as a direct charge.
Okay, so I think that concludes our questions and the information on the program itself and the matching. So if you have questions, feel free to email us, and we appreciate your time and look forward to your proposals. Thank you.